Hey, you low-life subcontractor.
I couldn't help but frown at the rude words directed at my son. The man speaking, a department head at a machine parts manufacturer, clearly looked down on my son's company, which was a subcontractor.
Oh, our company slave.
He sneered as he lightly tapped my son's head, speaking these words to a bank employee. My son, perhaps out of respect for the main contractor, stayed quiet even after being treated so rudely. But I couldn't just sit quietly in the face of such disrespect. A person who only knows how to look down on others by leveraging their position. Having someone like that as a department head raises serious questions about the quality of the entire company. With that in mind, I slowly began to speak. My name is Jack Nicholson. I'm the president of Nicholson Electric, an appliance manufacturer, and I lead a fairly busy life. But today is a rare day off with nothing scheduled. While thinking it might be nice to spend a relaxing day at home for a change, I was leisurely sipping coffee and reading the newspaper in the living room when my smartphone rang. The name displayed was my second son, Kyle. Good morning, Kyle. What's up?
Good morning, Dad. I'm going to the bank today about the loan, and I was wondering if you'd like to grab a meal together afterward.
I took a sip of coffee and smiled. Sure, how about we meet up at the bank? I'll wait for you in the lobby.
Got it. I'll send you the time by email.
Kyle's voice sounded happy when he heard my response. When he smiles like that, it's hard to resist loosening the purse strings. Honestly, being the youngest, he's always known how to get what he wants. Kyle used to work as an engineer at our company. He was incredibly talented, solving numerous technical challenges at Nicholson Electric. As I watched him grow, I was proud of his continuous drive to take on new challenges in technology. Later, Kyle married his childhood friend, who he'd been dating for years. Since she was the only daughter of a company president, Kyle chose to become an adopted son-in-law. Kyle left Nicholson Electric to take on the role of heir at Wilson Manufacturing, the company her father ran. But just as he was about to start his training, his father-in-law, Edward Wilson, suddenly passed away. Kyle was suddenly burdened with the full responsibility of running the business. Originally an engineer, Kyle had little knowledge of management. Even so, he worked tirelessly to protect the company that had been left behind. He struggled with the unfamiliar task of management, often showing dark circles under his eyes when we met. As both his father and a fellow business owner, I wanted to support him. Seeing Kyle poring over documents late into the night, I offered advice many times, sometimes even staying up all night together to come up with improvement plans. Kyle listened to my suggestions seriously and tried to implement each one, and as a result, Wilson Manufacturing's performance gradually improved. Kyle's efforts paid off, and he grew into a fine business leader. I was really looking forward to spending some quality father-son time with him after such a long time. So, that afternoon, I changed into casual clothes and left the house. Usually, I'm dressed in a sharp suit, but today, I'm just a father, not a business owner, so something simple would do. When I arrived at the bank, the lobby had a calm and quiet atmosphere.
Sorry, Dad. The previous customer is taking longer than expected, so I haven't been able to consult with them yet.
I found Kyle sitting on the waiting area sofa and approached him. When he noticed me, he spoke with a slightly apologetic tone. It's no problem. I'll just wait here, so don't worry about it.
Thanks, but somehow, having you nearby makes me nervous.
What are you talking about at this point? I said with a bit of exasperation, and Kyle smiled warmly. As Kyle and I sat side by side in the waiting area, a few men came out of a private room. One of them spotted Kyle and approached with a nasty grin. The man's face looked familiar, but I couldn't recall his name. Who on earth could he be? As I was sifting through my memories, the man sneered and began to speak to Kyle.
Hey, you low-life subcontractor.
Kyle frowned for a moment at his attitude, but quickly stood up and greeted him politely.
Good afternoon, Sean.
When I heard the name Sean, it suddenly clicked. He was Sean Mendes, the head of the manufacturing department at Wilson Manufacturing's main contractor, a machine parts manufacturer. I must have remembered him because we had met before.
What brings you here? Are you here to apologize for a delay or something?
No, I am here to discuss a loan today.
Don't pretend you're fine. Your company is in serious trouble, isn't it?
Even though Kyle responded calmly, Sean continued to mock him without really listening.
Excuse me.
At that moment, the loan officer from the bank, who had come out of the room with Sean, hesitantly spoke up. Seeing this, Sean seemed to think the officer wanted an introduction.
Oh, this. Our company slave.
Sean said, tapping Kyle on the head. Perhaps out of respect for the main contractor, Kyle remained quiet despite this rudeness. Taking advantage of this, Sean continued to speak with even more contempt.
For a small company like yours to be here, you must be here to beg for money, right?
The rude words from Sean filled me with intense anger. What is wrong with this guy? I was close to losing my temper before Kyle did. Meanwhile, Kyle remained calm, letting Sean's words pass without losing his composure. I couldn't help but admire his calm demeanor. Kyle used to be much more impulsive, quick to anger in the past. He got into fights at school several times, and I was often called in to give him a lecture. Even when he first started working, he often let his emotions get the better of him on the job. There were many times when he got heated during negotiations or caused trouble on the work site. But the Kyle standing before me now seemed like a completely different person. He had learned to control his anger and gained the ability to calmly assess situations. As his father, I was incredibly proud. However, from Sean's perspective, Kyle's calmness only seemed to provoke his irritation. Sean glared at Kyle, sneered, and said,
What's with that attitude? Show some gratitude. Subcontractors like you can survive without us.
Of course, we're grateful for our daily business relationships.
That's not coming through. Subcontractors should behave accordingly and brown nose, and be aware that you rely on us completely.
What a terrible thing to say. The contrast between Kyle's composure and Sean's arrogance only heightened the tension in the room. I couldn't help but question Sean's suitability as a professional in any business setting. Or maybe it's more like he lacks basic manners and a sense of ethics. Does he normally behave so arrogantly towards subcontractors? If that's the case, it's a serious problem. He only knows how to look down on others by using his position. Having someone like him working as a department head raises concerns about the overall quality of the entire company. With that thought, I finally decided to speak up. Excuse me, can I have a word? When I called out to Sean, he looked at me with a puzzled expression. Does your company approve of treating subcontractors like that? When I asked this, Sean scoffed, looking down on me.
Huh, for the hell are you? This is none of your business.
Do you really think so? I slowly stood up and looked Sean straight in the eye as I spoke. Sean took a step back, appearing slightly intimidated. I continued speaking to him. Let me put it this way. The $30 million contract for the new product release next year, which was planned with your company, is now canceled. The room fell silent for a moment at my words. Sean looked stunned for a moment, but then he burst out laughing loudly.
Hey, who is this old man? Kyle, is this guy someone you know?
When Sean asked this with a laugh, Kyle answered with a straight gaze. He's my father. At this, Sean laughed even more, in a crude manner.
You brought your senile old man here to try and get sympathy, huh?
Hearing this, Kyle, who had remained calm until now, glared at Sean with a look of anger. At that moment, the loan officer began whispering nervously into Sean's ear.
What? What about that old geezer?
Sean listened to the loan officer with a dissatisfied expression, but gradually the color drained from his face. His expression quickly changed to one of shock and panic.
The president of Nicholson Electric. This old geezer.
It seemed he finally understood the situation. I nodded quietly at Sean's words. Seeing this, Sean started to tremble. It was no wonder he was shaken. My company, Nicholson Electric, places large orders for parts from Sean's company. The work that Sean's company passes on to Wilson Manufacturing ultimately involves producing parts ordered by Nicholson Electric. Sean stood there in a daze for a while, but then his face turned pale and he began to sweat as he desperately apologized.
I deeply apologize. I didn't realize you were Jack. I'm terribly sorry for my rudeness.
You didn't realize. The loan officer here recognized me immediately, and I'm pretty sure we met just recently during the contract negotiations. Sean had indeed attended the meeting regarding the $30 million contract I had mentioned earlier.
Well, you see, since you're in casual clothes, I didn't recognize you. And with work being so hectic lately, I haven't been thinking straight.
If I weren't the president, would you have continued that attitude? In other words, you're an insincere man who changes his behavior based on who you're dealing with. Sean's face turned even paler as he bitterly shouted at Kyle.
Hey, what's going on here? You said he was your father, but the last names don't match.
I took my wife's last name when I married into the Wilson family. I used to be Kyle Nicholson.
How was I supposed to know that? Why didn't you tell me your father is Jack? And you call yourself a subcontractor when you can't even share basic information.
Whether he's my son or not is irrelevant here, Sean. What we're discussing is your lack of morals. When I said this, Sean desperately tried to make excuses.
No, it was just a little joke earlier.
There are some things that can't be dismissed as jokes, especially in a business setting. Listening to Sean's feeble excuses, I continued in an even calmer voice. I can't trust someone who makes such tasteless jokes, and without trust, it's difficult to maintain any contract. Do you understand what I'm saying?
What exactly do you mean?
What I'm saying is that after today's incident, we'll have to reconsider our business relationship with your company. I heard Sean gasp as he took in my words. Ignoring his reaction, I continued speaking. It's difficult to build a relationship of trust with a company that treats its subcontractors like slaves. Tomorrow, we'll officially notify you of the contract termination. I delivered these words clearly and without hesitation. Kyle looked at me with admiration in his eyes, a faint smile playing on his lips.
That's my dad.
Kyle murmured softly. Meanwhile, Sean, now as pale as a sheet, pleaded with me, almost in tears.
Jack, please reconsider. My words were misunderstood. Please forgive me.
I gave Sean a cold stare. Misunderstood? What exactly was misunderstood? I saw everything with my own eyes and made my judgment accordingly. I cannot trust a company that values people like you. As I said this, despair spread across Sean's face, and he stood there, unable to utter another word. Then, as if trying to save face, he began to speak, his voice trembling.
Are you sure you should say that?
What do you mean by that?
If we cut off orders to your son's company, he won't be able to repay his loans, let alone get additional funding, right?
Sean sneered as he pointed at Kyle. Kyle, who had been pointed at, just shrugged with a troubled expression. Seeing this, Sean couldn't hide his irritation and raised his voice.
Hey, why don't you say something?
Well, how should I put this? You don't need to worry about the loan repayment. We'll be finished with it soon.
Really? But you're still trying to get a loan, right? Doesn't that mean you're struggling with cash flow?
Actually,
At that moment, the loan officer, looking flustered, interrupted.
The loan is something we're requesting from Wilson Manufacturing.
Sean looked confused for a moment, hearing the loan officer's panicked tone.
What do you mean by that?
The performance of Wilson Manufacturing has been excellent, and there's no risk of a cash shortfall. Since Kyle took over as president, the company's performance has improved, and in recent years, it's been recording record profits annually.
Sean was left speechless by the loan officer's words. Indeed, when Kyle first inherited Wilson Manufacturing, the company was on a downward trend, just as Sean had said. It was like a sinking ship, and many employees were undoubtedly worried. But Kyle faced the situation head-on. He threw all of his expertise as an engineer into turning the company around. He thoroughly reviewed the manufacturing processes to improve efficiency, introduced new technology to upgrade the old equipment, and significantly improved the quality of their products, thereby elevating the technical standards of Wilson Manufacturing. Moreover, Kyle sought advice from me, his father. I taught him about business strategy, market analysis, and the importance of risk management. Kyle absorbed this knowledge and put it into practice. The combination of Kyle's technical expertise and my business advice led to Wilson Manufacturing's steady recovery. And as the loan officer mentioned, the company has been recording record profits every year.
we're set to fully repay our loan in about a month, but the bank suggested an additional loan, so I'm here to discuss that today.
You mean, the bank suggested it?
Yes, I was considering expanding our production line, so I thought it was a good idea.
Sean stood there in stunned silence at Kyle's words. A bank proposing a loan is the clearest indication that the company is in good financial health. Banks don't lend money without confidence in repayment. I could see Sean's face twist in shock and panic as he finally grasped the situation.
No way. You're really that competent.
It's the result of my experience at Nicholson Electric and my father's advice. But most of all, It's the result of the hard work of all our employees.
Kyle said this with a confident smile. At that moment, the bank branch manager hurriedly approached us.
My apologies for the delay, Kyle.
The branch manager didn't even glance at Sean and came straight over to Kyle and me, continuously apologizing. Watching this, I could see the blood drain further from Sean's face. He clearly hadn't imagined that the person he had been looking down on was someone worthy of such respect. It was as if I could hear the sound of something deeply ingrained in him crumbling to pieces.
I'm glad I made it in time. I'd like to join the discussion if that's all right.
Of course, we appreciate your input.
I've been hearing a lot about the success of Wilson Manufacturing. We're eager to proceed positively with the additional loan.
The branch manager began speaking enthusiastically, signaling to the loan officer. The loan officer immediately responded by leading Kyle and me to a private room. Oh boy, I was just planning to have a meal as a regular dad today.
Come on, Dad, don't say that. I wanted to hear your advice too.
Well, I suppose I don't have much of a choice.
This way, Kyle, Jack.
With the branch manager guiding us, we entered the private room. As I glanced sideways at Sean, I saw him standing there, dumbfounded, left behind. The next day, before I could send notice of the contract termination, I received a call from Sean's company. It seemed their president wanted to apologize in person, so Kyle and I arranged a meeting. As soon as we met, the president apologized deeply for Sean's misconduct.
We deeply apologize for this situation. We also find Sean's behavior highly regrettable for our company. Jack, could you possibly reconsider canceling the contract?
The president pleaded earnestly, and I calmly responded, if that's the case, I would like you to conduct an internal investigation to see if he has treated other subcontractors in the same manner, and if there is such evidence, take appropriate action. If you do, I will reconsider canceling the contract. The president readily agreed to my request and promised to conduct the internal investigation promptly. As a result of the investigation, it was revealed that Sean had displayed the same arrogant behavior toward multiple subcontractors and had even demanded personal kickbacks. Furthermore, he forced weaker subcontractors to align their stories and expensed his personal dining as company costs. Given the severity of these actions, Sean was immediately dismissed for cause. Additionally, the legal department began taking steps to address the kickback issue. After receiving this report, I, as the president of Nicholson Electric, informed them that I would withdraw the contract termination. This should restore normal relations between them and Wilson Manufacturing.
Let's hope so.
Reflecting on the events, I couldn't help but feel proud of my son's growth. Despite being treated so disrespectfully, Kyle remained calm and composed throughout. He truly has the qualities of a president. I hadn't realized just how much he had matured. I used to worry about his hot-headed, impulsive nature when he was younger, but now his growth is astonishing. Thinking that, I decided to express my feelings to Kyle. Kyle, you've really become someone to be proud of.
Huh, where's that coming from all of a sudden?
No, I just couldn't help but think that after everything that happened.
Thanks, but it's all thanks to what you taught me. A company leader must always stay calm. Remember when you told me that long ago?
Yes, I remember.
But honestly, I still have a long way to go. Seeing the way you handled things recently really drove that home for me. So please, Let me continue learning from you.
Kyle said this with a serious expression, looking straight at me. What words could be more gratifying for a father? Hearing Kyle's words brought a wave of emotion to my chest. I see. Then let's continue growing together from here on. As I wiped away a tear forming at the corner of my eye, Kyle smiled warmly. His smile conveyed deep trust and respect.
Thank you, Dad. I'll be counting on you.
Of course, I can't afford to fall behind either. As long as you keep growing, I'll have to keep working hard too. I answered with heartfelt resolve. As a parent and as a business leader, I couldn't be more excited about the future I would share with Kyle. With a playful tone, Kyle then suggested,
How about we exchange ideas over another meal sometime? On your tab, of course.
"Hey, I've been paying all the time. It's about time you treat me, Mr. President." As I celebrated Kyle's growth, I also found myself reinvigorated for the challenges ahead. Our bond grew even stronger, and together, we took a new step toward the future of our respective companies.